Good morning. I'm Blossom Johnston, the founder and CEO of Idaho Partners for Good. This is February 2025, our nonprofit Success Lab workshop with friends, old and new. And so let's just jump right into our workshop today. So Idaho Partners for Good, our mission is to reinvent how people give, how they share their expertise and do greater good together. Our vision is to develop stronger, healthier, better equipped nonprofits so they can do more of what they do best. That's why we offer things like the Nonprofit Success Lab. Today, we have a panel of experts for you. And Donny and I are in the Hawaiian culture. We are auntie and nephew, but he is also an expert in wealth management. So he is going to be up first, and our topic is employee retention strategies. Specifically, it is around setting up our employees for success in retirement. With that, Donny, I'm going to stop sharing and allow you to introduce the team.
Perfect. Thanks, Blossom, for the introduction. So, yeah, Blossom approached me and asked if I wanted to give a presentation essentially on retirement plans. I thought that if I was giving an entire hour worth of retirement information, I would put people to sleep. So I asked Joshua Correa. He's from Paycor. He's one of our payroll partners. Paycor is awesome because they actually integrate with a ton of our 401k partners as well. So speaking of 401k partners, we also have Steven Cima from 401 Go. And then Laura Brown and I are in Rotary together, and she is a health insurance specialist. And so she helps a lot of our 401k clients actually find health benefits. So it's a pretty awesome ecosystem we have here with the different professionals and all the different fields. So instead of just focusing on retirement plans, we figured we would open it up to pretty much anything that had to do with employee benefits, period. So kind of the way that we're going to go is we're going to have Joshua go first, and then Laura is going to present after that. Then I will present, and then Stephen will go. So we'll kind of do it in the same, order that a company would look for when they're creating a nonprofit organization. So first you would find payroll, then you would most likely find health insurance. Then after that, you would find 401k, and then the 401k person would then find the 401k record keeper. So in keeping with that, Josh, I will just hand it over to you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Donnie. As Donnie mentioned, I'm with Paycor. I'm actually in Idaho local as well, so I live off of 10 Mile and Pine next to the New Shields, if anybody's local as well. But we also wanted to kind of share just the information you would need to kind of educate yourself as an employer to kind of make these decisions, whether it's attractive plans to bring people over from a recruiting standpoint and make sure you get the top talent working for you, or what kind of software should you align with if you're expecting to grow in the next couple of years, or what your future plans are. So I'll share my screen really quickly and show you some of the resources that Paycor offers our prospects and our clients. And you'll see here, if you go to paycor.com, and I can provide the links for everybody for the things I'll be sharing today, but you'll find there's tons of resources on who we serve, like who we partner with, or even a resources center here that's going to allow you to see active webinars that Paycor holds for HR and compliance trends, any case studies, articles that could be helpful to guide you around HR topics, or even just an HR glossary for additional support, maybe explaining some HR things that you need support with. But most importantly, you can click Resource Center. And that will get you to our HR Center of Excellence. So think of this as like a resource, and these are all free resources from Paycor, just to help guide you around certain topics if you're looking to enhance these for you and your team. Specifically benefits, if we were to click on it, Paycor doesn't offer benefits, but we offer benefit administration. So you partner with your favorite brokers and advisors like Donnie and Laura, and then we'll provide an easy way for your employees to enroll in those benefits. So what I really like about this section is if you need more help with information around some of these, you can jump in and find out what are some of the best plans to use for your employees based on your organization's breakdown. So there's a lot of helpful articles, and the idea is to give you resources so you can make these critical business decisions and then and find partnerships that are long lasting, so you don't get stuck in the same scenario that I talked to a lot of people where they've made a decision on a vendor, they didn't do their research, and then now they need to make a change, and change is hard and you have to flip everything upside down. So so this is a good way to kind of align who you want as your vendor and your partner for the future. Now, a lot of times people don't want to talk to salespeople. I understand. They take your time, they sit in your building forever, and they never leave, right? So I want to give you an opportunity to watch some of these videos without having to talk to me. I'm super open if you want to talk to me either way, but these videos should help provide a little bit of clarity on like what exactly this system can do for you. And a lot of people are blown away. So if you want to sign in yourself, you can, or you can sign in under me. But ultimately, if you get a quick intro video, you have the ability to customize your own demonstration. These are micro demos. So they're just 2-minute videos on some of the categories that we'd select. So if you're really focused on analytics and recruiting and maybe onboarding, you can select those and you can say no to the ones that you don't want to see, right? So once you go through that, then it tees up 2-minute videos, and you can even take a product tour. So I'll send this link out to Blossom so she could provide it as well, embedded in the information for the video. But most importantly, this would be helpful just to get an idea of what to expect. Now, quick transition. Let me move over to a slide here for us. Part of the reason why we partner with nonprofits and they are a specialized industry for us is because we understand what nonprofits need. They don't have a bottomless budget. They raise money. That money is critical for work processes and workflows. So they need to have strong analytics and strong reporting in order to be able to share what exactly is happening with the organization and make those business decisions. So the reporting that Paycor can provide can make a difference because we come with canned reports. So that should be helpful in terms of being able to see clearer. Now, finding the right people is important too. We know that minimum wage is increasing, base salary for some of these roles are increasing. So when you find somebody that you think's the right fit and then they turn over 4 months later, that's way more of a hit to your budget than it is if they stay and you can get them to perform and be top performers. So finding the right people is important. With our recruiting software, you have knockout questions and things that could just help find the right people. But then most importantly, having attractive plans. Whether it's like on your careers page, putting your benefits breakdown plans on there to make sure that they know what you offer them as an employer so they can see a future with the organization and they know what they're signing up for as well. So. And then most importantly, compliance. So just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you avoid compliance. We all have to focus on compliance, and whether it's HR compliance or tax compliance, you need experts and support in this area. So for ACA reporting, if you're over 50 employees, or for even the ability to make sure that you're pulling out the right federal or state tax withholdings, our system automatically does that. So there's a lot of support around those areas for nonprofits. And then with the HR Center of Excellence and our SHRM certified professionals to give you HR guidance, you can't go wrong from an HR compliance standpoint. And then most importantly, changing. Like we mentioned, you might already have a system that you aligned with before, and now you have to change. So you want the best implementation if you're going to choose a new system, and you want to make sure that it's going to be stress-free. So we have implementation specialists that can help pull your information from your old system and help conditioning you to a Paycor system and putting you on the right path forward. And then lastly here, like I mentioned, we specialize in the nonprofit sector. So with 602,000 employees paid in the nonprofit sector, with 16,000 nonprofit clients, and for the past 34 years we've been doing business. Here's some of the companies we do business with, so you know you're going to be partnering with somebody that completely understands your current needs and your future needs. So I'm available after this call or even for questions during this kind of conversation. If you have any questions for me, please text me, call me, email me. I'd be happy to chat, or you could book a meeting on my link. So either way, happy to give some information out. And that's what I have if anybody else wants to jump in or questions.
Hey, Josh,
Sorry.
when were you going to do the checklist?
Oh, yes. That was on a different one. So thanks for the reminder. So Blossom and I spoke and we said if somebody jumps into an evaluation, let's say that you want to make a change to your current payroll provider or you want to select the right vendor, the checklist is the most important step because you want to verify that this vendor can actually do the things that you're looking for from a partnership standpoint. And when you're looking at multiple vendors, all this information starts to blend together. So it's really hard to make the best decision for you when they all sound the same, right? They're all called pay and they're all payroll companies and they all look the same. So what you want to find out is what's the security and system, like how is it protected from an encryption standpoint? What's their implementation model? So support as you bring somebody into the system. Is there any mobilization requirements? Like you want to make sure your employees can access their pay stubs, W-2 information on their mobile phone, as well as other things you might want your workforce to do. And then what about recruiting? Is there any specifics about recruiting, onboarding? What are some of the tasks required? HR and benefits. This might sound crazy, but there's payroll systems that don't have an HR database or even a single sign-on database. So you want to make sure that your employee data is stored digitally and easy to access. Time and attendance system as well to make sure you can do the things required for business. And then just most importantly, payroll. Can it do all the payroll tasks that you're asking it to do? Reporting, does it have the reporting? Analytics and so on from learning talent. So this isn't a complete evaluation guide. So you can really pair 3 vendors up next to each other and see who really stands out the most. But thank you for reminding me, Blossom. But
Yeah, in fact, it made me think about a question that should be added to this checklist, and
yeah,
that is a column for them to assess where they are currently in all of these areas, so that they actually, it emerges that, oh, wow, we really do need some help. So I think the assessment of where they're at currently would add a tremendous amount of value to this.
absolutely. Absolutely. Just adding another column and saying, where are we currently at, right? The current status or whatnot. So I will, I'll work on that and just adding that column for us. But good point. Any questions that came up, or do you have any questions for me, Blossom?
I had kind of a comment, looking at this, and I'm probably like more intrigued and excited about this tool than I would think I would be as the personality type that I am. But just in terms of getting from where somebody is in an organization to where that they're going to eventually grow or need to grow. Because as we know, a lot of times, when people start nonprofits, they're not coming from a perspective, from a place of specialization in these areas, compliance and data and, doing, all of the paperwork stuff. And so I also think that this tool could be incredibly useful because there might be things on here that a person goes, oh, I don't even know what that is, and it might be one of those steps that they missed in the process of setting things up, that this would be a really good jog for them to be able to also do that due diligence and make sure that they're, because what you don't know can be very expensive and very damaging, as we all know, especially in the fields that you guys are in. And so I think that this is a really good framework as far as those are concerned, to help nonprofits even accidentally stumble across and discover things that they need to know that they don't currently know right now.
Which actually spurs another question around, uh, is there a particular budget size or organization size where you begin to need to take a look at outsourcing what you're currently doing? You've got a lot of clients, and so you probably have a ballpark of when you transition from in-house to outsourcing.
Yeah, in-house can be, you could be an in-house for quite some time if you wanted to, right? But you can also start outsourcing as soon as you get 2 employees. It all depends on how hands-on do you want to be, because sometimes these in-house systems, they're not going to do your quarterly filings for you. They're not going to do some of the tax related things around payroll taxes. They're not going to, take accountability for the correct amount of dollars that are going to be coming out for taxes, right? Versus like an outsourcing system, it's our job to do that. We're SaaS, software as a service. So we're providing the software, but we're also, you're hired us for the service to make sure this is done correctly. So a lot of the times that, it depends on how involved you want to be, I guess, is the great question for that. A great answer for that is, if you want to be very involved, you can you can do payroll yourself on an Excel sheet if you wanted to. I don't recommend it because there's a lot that can go potentially wrong, but yeah, outsourcing could be a great use. And I tell that to my friends that are starting businesses now. You might as well, if you plan on growing to, 20, 30, 40 employees, even 5 years from now, you might as well start outsourcing first, because it's just, it's off your shoulders. We're gonna do everything for you with I-9 E-Verify with the IRS, with the documentations, W-2 distribution, as well as payment and taxes, 941 quarterly filings, annual filings. So a lot of that stuff is handled by us, and we pay your employees too, through ACH or pay stubs, whatever direction you want.
So Idaho Partners for Good is a big believer in outsourcing everything you possibly can, because you want to put those things into the hands of experts so that you can do your programs and services, which is where they typically have their expertise. So awesome. Thank you.
I will stop my share so somebody else can share it, or if there's questions that we have from a panel perspective, I'd be happy to answer.
We talked about at the very, in our preparation for this, about the spectrum of the benefits world. And so lay out what that spectrum looks like. I'm a new executive. I took over a nonprofit, and we've got a budget of $1 million. And we are trying to figure out, there's no benefits in place right now. So what's at my disposal? What should I be thinking about?
Yeah, if you're a newer company deciding benefits and what to do, I would say start information, right? Find out who you know in your network in terms of a broker who can guide you for what would be the best plan for you. Now, when in the next big step with benefits is once you select a plan, you find out what's going to be the best plan for you and the size of company or how you're going to fund it, stuff like that. The next big step would be, how are you going to get people enrolled in it? Are you gonna, depending on how many employees you have, are you gonna chase them around your office, making sure that they select or enroll in the benefits, or are you going to put a system in their hands that they can enroll over their mobile phone or over their computer, and they can get information that they need? So information, after you educate yourself on what kind of plan you want to provide for them, the next step would be educating your employees about those plans so they actually use the benefits that you're opting into. So, but like I mentioned, Paycor doesn't offer benefits, but Laura might be able to answer kind of like what plans would be recommended maybe for somebody who's just starting. But yeah.
Okay, take me up a step to the spectrum of benefits. So what are those different kinds of things like health benefits and insurance benefits? What's that landscape look like for a leader who's trying to figure it out?
Yeah, it's going to start obviously medical, right? So what kind of medical and different plans you want to have, whether it's PPO or a high deductible plan, you want to be financially aware of the amount that your employees are going to spend, but also aware of what you want to spend as an employer if you're contributing to those plans, right? And then think about dental too. Dental is obviously, in my opinion, a required benefit. So you want to offer dental and vision. I wear contacts, so vision. Those are some of the things of the core benefits that you want to provide for your employees. But then what we're noticing now is things like short-term disability, long-term disability, those benefits and from an ancillary standpoint are also a requirement too. So a lot of times people will opt into those. And then you think, what other additional benefits can we have? What are those voluntary benefits, whether it's life insurance or pet care or any kind of like things that we can get, creative and have them opt into, so they're feeling like they're covered, and then maybe have some sort of contribution amount from the employer standpoint. So you get very creative in the benefits world, but that's what we see from the benefit enrollment standpoint. But it's a lot of information for employees. So what's helpful is our system can put that information in front of the employees so they know what they're electing into. or they know what they're electing out of. And now think, your employees also have families. Sorry if I'm frozen here. My internet sometimes is buggy, but hopefully you can still hear me. Sometimes employees have families. So what are the difference in the plans of what their family members qualify for and what that looks like? So you need to make sure that as an employer that all of that is covered and that it's also not going to break the bank for you or your employees if you offer it for them as well.
Laura, weigh in on this subject,
You
would
know,
you?
it's actually a great segue. If you're okay, I'll kind of start my presentation because this is exactly what I'm going to talk about. So I'll just share these little slides. They're not overly fancy, but I think simple is the best way to communicate here. I'm Laura Brown. I own Frederickson Health Insurance. We're a second generation independent health insurance brokerage here in Idaho. We're part of the United Benefit Advisors. So that's other brokerages that are also independent like ours throughout the nation, so that we can help our clients, whether they're here or we need to recommend them to a trusted partner. We can help solve that. Our mission is to be Idahoans serving Idahoans. So not only do we do employee benefits, we also do individual benefits and Medicare. And in many of those products, it's free to access our expertise and knowledge. So don't feel like as a nonprofit, oh, I couldn't possibly afford a broker that sounds so fancy. We're not very fancy, but we know a lot, and we can really help you develop a great strategy. We serve nonprofits here locally, ranging in size from one just trying to figure it out up to, I think the largest one we serve probably has about 350 employees, and there are different benefit spaces and kind of what you can do with that. So I'll kind of speak about a little bit of the range and common questions we're receiving. Something that's a hot topic this year, especially both in the nonprofit and the private sector, are these ICHRAs, or I hate that word because it just stands for Individual Coverage Health Reimbursement Account. So a lot of employers are asking us, what is this ICHRA thing? Essentially, it is a flat dollar amount that an employer will offer to their employees, and their employee can then go find the best fit on their local exchange or maybe the national exchange. Why I personally don't like it, especially for nonprofit employees, nobody gets into being in the nonprofit world to get rich. We're serving in other ways. So some of those employees can access a tax credit, and that ICHRA just simply offsets it. So it doesn't help the nonprofit and it doesn't help the employee. So it's not always the best option, but ask your local advisor if that's a great solution. The other thing that you can offer to your employees, that if you don't have the budget for a full benefit plan, is Your Health Idaho is our local exchange here, but nationally, some states have their own, some states are on the federal level, but it's free to access a local agent so ask around, make sure that you can send your employees like, gosh, we don't do a benefit plan right now, but here's someone who knows a lot about that. And they can answer your questions and help decipher what's best for you. Insurance is not a one size fits all ever. Then of course, health insurance. Common questions we get around health insurance is, how many employees do I need? How much do I have to pay? What's my commitment? Most insurance companies, they need you to have at least 2 active employees working in your business, a minimum of 20 hours each. Once you're at that level, it kind of opens the door to implementing a health insurance policy. And then of course, the larger you get, the more it's demanded, but there's different resources. The health insurance, you don't have to pay all of the premium for your employee. There's a range depending on the industry. Some of our nonprofits, they say, well, we can't really afford a high wage, but we want to offer strong benefits. So it's not unusual for nonprofits to cover the employee, but maybe not family members. But really, if you think, okay, I have $300 per employee in my budget, I'm looking at the ICHRA, that actually goes a pretty long way in a health insurance space. And you can offer multiple plans to your employees. So you have flexibility there, maybe more so than you realize. So again, call a broker. We're free, and we know a lot. The other way that some of the nonprofits are solving a benefit that employees can't access on their own is telemedicine. One of our favorites is Nice Healthcare. Nice Healthcare, they're about approximately $50 per employee per month, but the entire family can access the benefit. So, and that works often in maybe teledoc or things along those lines. Those are less costly. NICE is more expensive because they'll have local clinicians that can come to the home or office of that employee or family member. They can do labs. They have mobile x-ray units. They have a list of over 550 prescriptions, and anything that's accessed through NICE Healthcare has a $0 copay. So it's a great way to offer additional coverage to your employees where you're giving them free access to care. It's not going to cover the big things, so a full policy is still needed for them. The last thing I'll talk about is what we were just talking about now, that spectrum of benefits. Those ancillary benefits, those are also something from the employer perspective. Even if you make any of these listed, dental, vision, life, disability, accidental, a lot of AFLEC kind of falls into that accidental space commonly. These can all be paid by the employee. Everything but disability can be done pre-tax. Disability should be post-tax, but I won't get into the weeds there. So the employee can pay this, but you are able to provide it to them at a discount from what they normally could. So Josh talked about he needed contacts. So if his employer didn't offer a vision plan, I could sell him one for like $15 a month, which that's okay. But the employers we utilize, they can access a vision plan for $6 or $7 a month. So right there, even if you have Josh pay for it, you've already given him a 50% discount or better. So it's really, it's different for each entity, but to connect with somebody like me that will, there's just some contact information locally that'll help you identify what makes sense, and kind of just starting down that path is always exciting. That's it. I tried to keep it to 5 minutes.
That's awesome. So, Donny, do we want to go one step deeper into the sector that you are an expert in?
Perfect. Yeah, so I can go ahead and share my screen here. Let me just do some reorganizing really quick here. All right. There we go. So this is our company, Wealth Management Associates. We are 6 advisors. We're a team of 6 advisors. We have about 15 people that work in the company. John Sullivan and I head the 401k/retirement plan department. John Sullivan is a CFA. Brian Damiani is a CFP. Cameron Benson's a CFP. I'm a certified 401k professional, and Jacob and Brandon are both advisors with us as well. So we are a very qualified team here. We have and we oversee about 85 different plans between Idaho, California. We even have some plans out in Texas and Tennessee. So we've got plans everywhere. So we're very deep into the retirement planning space. This is just our legal disclosure. We are part of the financial services industry, so we do need to have these legal disclosures. So I guess, what is the purpose of an advisor? We're usually the first stop to anything related to 401k. And so we basically make your life easier. Well, how do we make your life easier? Is we ask you questions and we try to figure out and really mold the plan. So what is the purpose of the plan? Where's the funding coming from? Is it a steady flow of funds that's being put into the match? Especially when it's related to nonprofit organizations, sometimes there's a big influx of money in one year and then it runs out in the years following. And so if that happens, then we have to plan for that. There's a bunch of different ways that we can plan the match. We can put it into a bucket of money that's earning interest, and then we can use it for the match in the future. But we really have to be intentional with the way that the funds are spent, and we have to know where the funds are coming from. Because 403b plans and 401k plans are specifically related to ERISA, and which is then regulated by the IRS, we have to be careful with the way that what we're promising to the employees. So we have to be intentional when we're setting it up in the first place. How much can you afford? What is comparable match with other companies? What is like the purpose of the plan? Is it to attract new talent? Is it to keep the employees that you have? Is it for specifically the benefit of the owner itself? You know, all of these questions require additional planning, and we need to incorporate all of these ideas and put it into whatever the ultimate product is. So within the retirement plan, this slide specifically is supposed to be crowded, and there's supposed to be a ton of information on it, because this is what you look at. These are the different types of retirement plans, different types of retirement accounts. It's impossible to really figure out, you know, which one is best for you. And so just like Laura, we are financial planners, wealth management advisors. We sound expensive too, right? But we're not, because essentially for us to be able to understand your situation and see what your company is going through, it's completely free. Our consultations are completely free. And we do act as fiduciaries. Well, what are fiduciaries? Essentially, we have to act in the best interest of our clients, always. Regardless, we can't just do, oh, this works. You know, we have to do this is what's best. So this is the entire financial planning, or, you know, there's even more accounts than this, but I couldn't fit it on the slide. But this is essentially what you're looking at, overwhelmed. And so we try to basically figure out, is it a 403B? Is it a 457? Is it a 401k or 401a? Like, what kind of things do we need to pay attention to? And we can mold it and basically put your company into whatever box it needs to be put into. One of the most common plans when it comes to nonprofit organizations is a 403B. Everybody knows of a 401k. Not very many people know of a 403B. The interesting thing is there's really not all that much of a difference. As you can see, I mean, 401k regulated by ERISA, 403B in some cases aren't regulated by ERISA, but majority of the time they are. Essentially, 403Bs are for nonprofit organizations, schools, hospitals, and religious organizations. Then 401ks are for for-profit companies. Contribution limits, these are old contribution limits. So these are last year's contribution limits, $23,000, and this is not including the employer match. So if there is an employer match, it's on top of that, but this is just the employee contribution into the 401k. And if you're 50 years old or above, you have an additional $7,500 that you can put into it. As far as the additional contributions, the 403B does have a little bit more flexibility on that end. So after 15 years of retirement, you can actually have an additional $15,000 lifetime limit of a contribution to be put into the 403B. And essentially, right, everything else is pretty much the same until it comes to costs. If the 403B is not associated with ERISA, then there's significantly less testing. There's significantly less red tape that we have to go around, so it's just lower cost. One of the major things is that employees will actually not get refunds. Well, what is a refund? Why would you ever get a refund from a 401k? In a 401k, there's basically a teeter-totter, and that's what's called ADP and ACP testing. It basically measures the average deferral percentage and the average contribution percentage of all of the employees. So it has to be equal between the highly compensated and the non-highly compensated employees. So 403Bs, because of the nature and because it's a nonprofit organization, they're given pretty much safe passage through ADP testing specifically. ACP testing, on the other hand, if they are ERISA regulated, they do have to go through that. So that's one of the major differences. I mean, you know, a lot of it is just really jumbled up 401k, 403B jargon, but basically just think of this. 403Bs are less regulated than 401ks because typically nonprofit organizations have less money to basically put away tax deferred than 401ks and for-profit organizations do. Essentially, one of our major functions is to create the retirement team. So our retirement team is basically made up of the plan sponsor, which is you, the owner or the payroll person of that entity. Us as the advisor. The third-party administrator is like the accountant or the watchdog. They make sure that, believe it or not, people have stolen money out of 401ks and retirement plans. So they make sure that there's no funds that are unaccounted for anywhere within the retirement plan. The record-keeping system is essentially where Steven comes in, which he's going to be presenting next. But the payroll system is our participant, basically, interface. So when a participant logs into their program and they see its Fidelity, or they see its PCS retirement, or 401 Go, or Vestwell, or wherever it is, that's the record keeper. So they have a bunch of tools, retirement planning tools, stuff like that that they can use. And then one of the most important things is also the payroll system, where Josh has been awesome. And the payroll system is key, especially here too, where we need to make sure that it integrates with the 401k. Typically, when it comes to nonprofit organizations, the specialty to have a huge team to manage payroll isn't really there. And so we need to utilize the integrations that the record keeper has with all of the different other aspects of it too. So we need to make sure that everything's working together. And as far as education, right? Like our main thing is education. On the retirement planning space, the financial know-how is basically how the heck are you supposed to know what to do? You know, how do you know that you're on the right path to retirement? And the reality of it is a lot of people don't. And so it's our job as financial planners to make sure that every single participant in there or in the plan or in the 403B or 401k or wherever has access to that information. And if they're interested in it and they really want to learn more, that advisor has to make sure that they're willing to sit with that participant to make sure that they're understanding what's happening. So as far as what we help with, it's financial planning, insurance, estate planning, you know, retirement outcomes and expectations for your older employees, right? As you progress closer and closer to retirement, now all of a sudden you have to be more intentional with where you deploy your funds and where your funds are and how your funds are actually performing. So we really, really have to be careful on what's happening closer and closer to retirement. When you're 20, you know, totally fine. As long as you're putting money away, it's hard to pick a bad investment. But when you're 50 and when you're 60 and you're about to retire, that's when our job becomes more and more important. So essentially, this is my last slide, but yeah, I mean, a 401k and a 403b can be customizable. And so it really, really just depends on what the company needs. People see 403b, people see 401k. They don't really know, you know, I mean, they think that all 401ks and all 403bs are made the same, and they're not. And so it really makes sure that you have to have that expertise to be able to build one that's specific for your company. And if a 401k is not, you know, not in the realm, you need somebody that's going to be able to tell you, hey, this is a bad idea. Let's not create one now. But when you hit these other benchmarks, then we can create one. And that's one of the most important things. So Steven, I will hand it over to you to kind of give a little bit of a background on 401 Go, since you guys are one of the best providers for startup, smaller 403bs and 401ks.
Okay, before that happens, I have a question for you, Donny.
Okay, yeah.
So again, I'm the leader of a nonprofit. Can I offer a 401(b) just for my leaders?
No, so it has to be non-discretionary, or it has to be, you know, unprohibited, basically. So you can't just basically say, hey, this is only for my officers. It has to be available for everybody. And that's kind of one of the things with ERISA. Now, if there are specific employees that are doing an exceptional job and you really want them to stay, there are specific things that us as advisors can do. We can do these things, and it sounds terrible. I hate the name of this, but it's called golden handcuffs, essentially, is you basically attach them to the company, and if they leave, you can attach it with a vesting schedule because you need them for that period of time. And so you basically have a vesting schedule with a portfolio that you're willing to basically put money into. If that employee stays for that specific period of time, then they can get that money. If they leave before that, they don't get it. And so that's one of those things. In order for your nonprofit to survive, if there's somebody that's that important where you need to make sure that they stay on, I mean, a golden handcuffs is probably a pretty good deal.
Awesome. Okay, and you said something else that caught my attention, and that is that 403bs, they can tend to be less regulated. That immediately put me into the mindset of, so does that mean more risk?
Typically, it doesn't mean more risk. I mean, the 403bs are less regulated only if they're not part of ERISA. If they're part of ERISA, they're somewhat the same. They have to abide by somewhat the same guidelines as 401ks, other than that ADP testing that I talked about. So the risk is always there. I mean, whenever you're dealing with other people's money, it's always there. But
Right.
hiring an advisor, having a good TPA team, and then having a good record keeper keeps you out of trouble, basically. And that's the reason why we go through things like trustee reviews. We make sure that you know what the plan fees are doing, where it's coming from. The investments are being analyzed and reviewed on an annual basis. We make sure that there's no loans that are going that are basically going that are basically not being paid. We're basically the oversight to all of the payroll system integration, everything. So stuff like that. I mean, yeah, we make sure that, you know, everything's just kind of working together. And when we're talking about eligibility too, we try to line it up with health insurance, because we don't want all of our employees to be like, okay, but it's like a year for the 401k, but it's 90 days for health insurance, and then it's 60 days for this, and it's, you know, we just want it to be easy on the employees. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we know what the other providers are doing so we can coordinate stuff with them.
Awesome. All right, Steve.
Thanks, Donnie, for teaming me up like that. I apologize, everyone. I had slides and would love to be on camera right now, but to be honest, my boss had a family emergency with his wife, so I got sent last minute on his trip to go present down in Los Angeles. So I'm doing this best I can virtually. So I appreciate everyone's patience with this. Donnie teed it up really well. I think the big thing about 401 Go is we are a modern fintech platform. We are I think of us like the infrastructure layer of the technology stack for 401k. And all that means is we're the system of record where great advisors like Donnie can track 401k plans, track 403b plans, and sort of do their work in administration within the 401 Go platform. Our company was started by two entrepreneurial brothers that had for-profits and nonprofits, actually, and built everything from the ground up to be able to make retirement plans tech-friendly and very affordable for nonprofits and single businesses. So that's sort of the skinny on that. I think one of the things I wanted to touch on to overlap with Donnie is sort of the benefits of the 401k and 403b. And I think for maybe board members of nonprofits or leadership groups, a couple of the key benefits will probably overlap with some of the things that Josh said as well, is having a 401k or a 403b plan for a nonprofit can help attract and retain top talent by giving the nonprofit the ability to have a tool to keep people coming through the door. There's also one of the things that Donnie's great at is tax advantages for 401k and 403b plans. Employees can make pre-tax contributions, reducing their taxable income for the year and allowing them to save for retirement. And employers can receive tax deductions for contributions made to employee accounts or setting up 401ks as well. Let's see, what else can we touch on, Donnie, that overlaps with what
I think one of the coolest things with the record keeping space now, Stephen, is the financial planning tools that the participant can use
Yes.
in order to see where they're at and how close they are to retirement and what level of income they can actually expect to be receiving.
That's actually a great point. And one of the things that we love about our app is we have a partner called MX, and what they do is allow us to integrate these tools that Donnie you're speaking of, where you can go into the 401 Go platform and link, say, your bank account or other retirement accounts to it, and then you could get a holistic view of your retirement. So you can get a full picture of, hey, I'm on track to retire at this age. I have this kind of equity in this company, or I have this savings account, to kind of give you a full picture. And I think where that's great is it helps assist the financial advisors we work with their ability to kind of give life advice, financial advice, or other investment advice to kind of help each individual client on their road to retirement.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that too, it's like I said, it's our job to make sure that any participant that's looking for that level of, financial information is able to access it whenever they need to. And so it kind of is a partnership that we hold dear, is that our record keeping platform is able to allow us to be able to see all of the data that the participant wants to show us. And then from there, because participants typically don't, especially in the nonprofit space, typically don't have an advisor that's looking over their funds. And so as the 401k or 403b advisor, we step in and we make sure that they are being taken care of like they have their own advisor. Even if we're not looking over all of their aspects of life, we'll basically be able to look over anything they're willing to share with us. So it's kind of a marriage thing that we have to make sure that any platform that we use, like 401go, is able to have those types of financial planning tools to ultimately be able to have the participant retire happy.
Awesome. Okay, we're getting to the place where we need to really start doing some sound bites and popcorning on key questions. So if you'll just go ahead and unmute, and it's okay if you are jumping in on as you have a perspective on these questions, jump in. Okay. All righty. I'm going to start with the issue of recruitment and retention. What are the benefits? What are the most effective strategies and benefits for attracting top talent today, especially in the nonprofit sector?
Making sure that you focus on like the type of people and experience you're looking for, right? And when I say type of people, is there certain requirements that you're looking for? Is there knockout questions that you need to provide? If you're looking for an administrator, you don't want to be interviewing people that don't have strong administration skills, right? So think when you go fishing, cast a wide net. If you can cast a wide net, you'll capture people that meet the criteria of what you're looking for. If you want to attract top talent, you then need to have like a careers page or some sort of attractive offer. We see a lot of our clients on their careers page, they have their benefits listed out. They have their 401k approach or 403 approach listed out on the careers page. They have a small video about us for mission, values, alignment to the organization. So all of those things are played out in front, and then there's a click here to apply button or click here to see our open position. So if you think about recruiting and finding top talent, you need to be an employer that is up to date and intuitive, but also has attractive packages as well. So.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to ask for even more laser-like answers, okay, for this. Just hit the highlight that first comes to mind when I ask the questions. So what innovative or non-traditional benefits have you seen make a real impact on employee retention?
I would say I've heard of a company utilize almost snow days or powder days. So if it's good on the mountain or something, I mean, one of the companies here, I think it was one of the bigger companies downtown Boise, they just basically say, hey, if the powder's really good on Friday, go ahead and leave. Take your skis up there and have a good time.
We're seeing unlimited PTO more often. So that's. And to touch on the last one, and it totally echoes what Josh said, but if you can clearly communicate what your benefits are, and how it makes a big difference with a story of this really helped this employee in this way, that can help in that recruitment.
Awesome. Well, I did hear pet care as
pet care. Pet care is more expensive than you'd think. We've tried to implement pet care, and anyway, we haven't got to stick, but we are seeing it more commonly in the large employer space, just to really round out those benefits.
Awesome. Alrighty. Okay. What are some practical ways to tailor benefits to a multi-generational workforce? We have 3 to 4 generations now, and they don't all need the same thing. So what do they do?
Most commonly, we'll see multiple plans offered. Some people do like the concept of an HSA, but others really are used to the security of a copay. But someone who's older is going to use their benefits more, so they might be looking for a more benefit-rich plan, and they're willing and able to pay a higher premium.
one of ours is Secure Act 2.0 has actually allowed matching in student loans instead of matching for retirement. So it's actually one of those things. To be honest, this is the first year that's actually ever been allowed. So this is brand new with Secure Act 2.0, but you can actually match on student loan payments rather than just for retirement. So the retirees, the people that are getting close, can take advantage of the match. The people that are getting out of college can use that to pay off their student loans. So it's kind of one of those things that is pretty cool.
I've never heard of that before, Donnie. So that's an awesome, awesome
Yeah.
one for I think attracting younger employees. Perfect. Okay.
One thing too to add to multi-generational, just to be super quick, is reporting on demographics. Employee demographics is huge because you could actually see as an employer what your demographic build actually is, instead of saying, I think it's a good mix of everybody, and then you present plans towards that. You could now see directly what it is. So that's helpful for visibility.
Awesome. All right. Now I have to get into the legal and the compliance side of things. Otherwise we'd be remiss. So what are some common legal pitfalls that nonprofits should be aware of when structuring their benefits?
I've got a couple in our sector. A 401k basically, or a 403b, you can promise matches. If you promise matches, typically it's hard to take it away. And so if you start the 403b out because you've got this big influx of money, like I was talking about during my presentation, and then you can't actually follow through on it with future years moving forward, then it's not really seen. It's a bad thing for employee morale. But it's even worse on the compliance side, because maybe the third party administrator, because if you've got yourself involved with what's called a safe harbor plan, then all of a sudden you run into major compliance issues. And so that's why it's important to really understand where the funding is coming from and know if you can actually afford the matches moving forward.
Okay.
I think in the health insurance space, the compliance right now, it's early in 2025. And so a lot of our employers are talking about the 1095 reporting that's required in order to related to benefits that are offered, that specifically the health insurance. Just making sure that you've documented your plan documents or a Section 125 plan if you're pulling premiums out pre-tax. So there's just little things that you don't know until the Department of Labor says, do you have this? And you go, I don't know. And I'll call Laura or I'll call Josh. So those are common things.
So that's why I love that checklist, is because it'll help keep them out of trouble. Okay. All right. Next question. How do recent policy or legislative changes impact employee benefits in 2025?
The biggest one to keep an eye on this year was related to the Inflation Reduction Act. That specifically impacted Medicare in the prescription coverage of a maximum out of pocket of $2,000. Prior to that, it was $8,000, and prior to that, no maximum. When it was high, employer plans allowed working Medicare aged eligible members to defer Medicare without being penalized. This year's a little bit of a gray area. Next year, if an employer plan is not deemed creditable by Medicare or similar benefit, that member could be penalized even on the employer coverage. So it's something to double check with your employer on.
Well, we might need to do a workshop specific on that later in the year. All right. Okay. Are there any upcoming benefits related compliance issues nonprofits should prepare for?
Go ahead, Stephen, if you got something to say.
I was just going to add to Blossom's previous question on updates. I think you made a great point with the student loan matches for contributions. There was also another one on the 401k side where if an employer has a match for their participants, they can now match in Roth contributions. Typically before that, if an employer gave a 2% match to their employees, that was not a Roth contribution. So that's one change to be on the lookout for, that now company matches and contributions can be counted as Roth contributions for employees.
Awesome. Okay, 2 more questions because we're almost out of time. Next one. Trust is a big issue for any organization, especially for nonprofits. How do you know if you've got a trustworthy benefits person?
I can go first with that one. Um, for us, I think it just first of all, it's the gut feeling, right? The gut feeling on, are they actually trying to sell me on something, or are they trying to consult me on what my employees really need? And if you can usually tell that by the questions that they're asking, right? They're asking questions like, how much money are you going to put in? How big is your company? How many participants do you have? Typically that's, that shows signs of like, I really only care about how big your company is. But for us, it's, if it takes a more consultative approach and they're asking questions, and then basically at the end, they basically say, hey, like for us, we're fee-based advisors. So it's based off of the assets within the plan. So typically we take 50 basis points of the assets in the plan. If it's a startup plan, we don't really get paid at all. And it's our investment in that company to make sure that they actually have a 401k or a 403b that's going to flourish in the future. And so it's our investment in them and making sure that it can do that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I mean, yeah, for us, fee-based advisors are typically good, and then making sure that they're taking a consultative approach rather than, more of a transactional approach.
Couldn't have said it better. I think that as you step into these products, it needs to be consultative, and it has to be a conversation that is, you're checking boxes. Like there's some form of like checking boxes to make sure there's alignment. And like Donnie said, that gut feeling is huge, because you're going to be paired with that person on this project for the entirety of the life of that agreement. So you want to be able to communicate clearly with them, get in contact with them. But then most importantly, consultants, they don't pressure people a lot of time. They're going to work off of your urgency, but they're here to give you information. So if you're feeling pressured into promotions, discounts, stuff like that to sign up, just make sure that you think about like your options. That's all. Because sometimes you'll feel cornered by salespeople sometimes, and they want your business, so they're gonna tell you that you have to do it. But if it's your speed, kind of think of it like this: it's your world, we live in it, and that's how it should be approached. So we want to better suit your world. We just have to work around your time. So
Josh, I love that. And so that's how Idaho Partners for Good does stuff. We are not transactional, we are relational. And so if they do not have the feel of relationship, then you better look elsewhere. So with that, I want to thank our esteemed panel of experts here today. This was so awesome. And we are so appreciative that you have made yourself available to us and to those that we serve. So with that, I will just wrap up with the next month. We've got Maureen O'Toole. And so watch for the email that comes your way in regards to the next leadership workshop for Nonprofit Success Lab. And with that, I will say thank you and have a wonderful day, everybody.